When you get in a car crash, been robbed, or even a witness to a shooting, what is the first thing you do? Call 911 and police officers are there in a matter of minutes. These officers who answer your call are the ones that are helping you get through a traumatizing event. In the midst of distress, we don't realize that these officers are dealing with the emotional stresses of the situation as well. Reporter Lauren Erickson has the story.
We've all seen the videos people take that claim police officers are antagonizing citizens. But are we really seeing the full truth behind it all? Not only are officers dealing with the stress of the situation, but they are dealing with the emotional stress from being criticized by others. Commander Chuck Mulligan of St. Johns County Sheriff's Office gives us his side of the story.
I think you have to understand that a lot of these individuals who do this are provocateurs. They already have an agenda. Many of them claim to be reporters, but in truth, they're an individual who has a certain thought process. They have a certain feeling about law enforcement already for whatever reason. Maybe they got tickets when they were 15. I don't know what their issues are. But these individuals go out and say that they're there to protect the citizens from law enforcement. The reality of it is almost none of them ever find any situation where law enforcement is doing something wrong until they inject themselves into the scenario, and until they then, through their advocacy work of walking around filming the law enforcement officers interfering in what they're doing at the time, creates the conflict, because law enforcement's not looking to do anyone a disservice with the Constitution or anything else.
With the amount of pressure these police officers are under, it is important for them to be able to detach themselves from their jobs.
And so I would say that those types of stressors, obviously you take that home with you. And what you have to do in law enforcement is to have hobbies that are outside of law enforcement, to have friends that are outside of law enforcement, so you can disconnect from your job to your personal life.
Averaging 400 calls a day, the officers at the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office are constantly dealing with different types of stressors. Even after seeing the videos on social media, UNF student Ben Samples believes that police officers are under a lot of pressure and should be seen in a positive light.
I believe that, again, there are cases where police officers do use excessive force, but on the other hand, I also know that when a police officer tells you to do something and you are not doing that, then there's and if you're putting anybody else in danger, then a police officer has a right to stop you. But their reputation has been marred, and I think unfairly. Just many videos take things out of context.
For Tribute to First Responders, I'm Lauren Erickson reporting.
For more information on the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, please visit www.sjso.org. And now here's Andre Roman.
Although we don't have cataclysmic destruction every day, those at the UF Health Trauma Care Center in downtown Jacksonville do their very best to stay on ready and able for any situation. Reporter Jerish George has the story.
If you have lived in Florida long enough, you have probably had your fair share of traumatic experiences. Whether it's a car crash, gunfire, a flood, or a hurricane, no matter the situation, officials like Dr. Rebecca Melvin are always prepared to help you power through these troublesome experiences.
Things just happen. We're in the medical field. No one plans to get into an accident. No one plans to get shot or get into a car wreck, or no airplane plans, hopefully plans, to crash into the ground. So we kind of run our day-to-day operations knowing that something can happen. We just need to be prepared for it. So we have in-hospital disaster stuff that we do, and then we also do community-wide disaster planning. There's usually a large, what is it called? Like an airplane crash simulation that they do out at the airport. We participate in that every year. They'll do active shooter drills throughout the community, which is also part of disaster management, because it kind of will test our surge capacity here, how many patients we get at one time. And then we do in-hospital stuff several times a year, where we practice our actual hazmat disaster stuff. We'll practice active shooter drill stuff within the hospital as well. We're a trauma center, which means we can never go on divert, which means we can't say, hey, we're full, please send these patients somewhere else. We have to take them, so we have to make room somewhere. Our surgical intensive care unit runs at max capacity close to the entire year because of this kind of stuff. But because everyone's so used to the influx of patients and how critical these patients are when they come in, we're just really good at taking care of them.
Officials have their part to play in any disaster or trauma, but they would like to let you know that you can play your part as well.
The best thing you can do is see what your resources are around you. Make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, you're safe first. Call 911. If you you see something bleeding, literally hold, if my arm is bleeding, I hold pressure on it to help stop the bleeding. And just talking to someone, the little act of holding someone's hand and saying, I'm here, I'm gonna make sure help gets here, sometimes is enough to kind of boost them to kind of continue fighting.
And a tribute to first responders, this is Jerish George reporting.
If you would like more information on disaster relief and how to prepare in your area, please visit www.floridadisaster.org. And now we turn to Lauren Erickson.
Dodging bullets, evading fires, and even weather storms, media first responders are always informing the community about risk. But where is concern for their safety? Reporter Andre Rohrman has a story.
With current events happening almost every minute of every day, people and news organizations are always hard at work to keep up with the latest information. At times, there is nothing to worry about when sending a reporter out into the field. Other times, they have to decide if the story is worth the risk.
It depends on the story. If there's a shooting on the north side, somebody shot in the leg, that happens almost every day. Or shooting in the hand, that's not necessarily worth the story if we're going to get, if we're going to be injured in the long run. But if there is if you're interviewing family members of somebody who passed away, the story's more in depth than just somebody who was shot in the hand for being in the wrong part of town.
Safety is a huge concern.
You always have to take the story into consideration, but again, your safety is definitely number one.
And viewers at home are well aware that reporters have to look danger in the eyes.
I think reporters, definitely they understand the danger that they're getting themselves into. But also, they know, hopefully they understand that there's a line where their lives are just completely going to be jeopardized and whatnot. But they will definitely go, they'll go to whatever lengths to get the story.
Thousands of reporters put their lives at risk every day to bring you all the latest news. So I decided to speak with First Coast News to see what role the media plays in first response.
First, they spoke about the process.
Well, when we first get news into our newsroom, we either get a phone call, a text message, or a viewer picture showing the breaking news, and then we go from there trying to confirm that story and send reporters to the scene.
To him, the viewers watching at home are the ones who help determine how to go about a story. If more are affected, then they want to go about the story a lot harder.
The more people that are affected by a weather event, by a breaking news situation, the more resources we put into a news story. The school bus crash earlier this week, we heard rumors that a school bus had crashed. There were students who were injured in that. We sent a crew immediately to the scene. Luckily, we only found out that one student had minor injuries, but we still went heavy on that just to make sure that everyone was okay. House fires, severe weather, school bus crashes, those are all stories that we've covered just this week alone. We get pictures, we get viewer email, we get confirmation from public information officers into our newsroom here. And then we dispatch crews, we make phone calls to other agencies trying to confirm the information so that we can get it on our air first and get it on accurately.
Lindsay Boach explained to me that there is a balance as a journalist between the risk to their lives and the story. At First Coast, if reporters feel that the story is too unsafe, then they should let someone know.
There's been a very, I would say, not strict, but it's been a little bit tighter on if you don't feel comfortable, let somebody know because your life, again, better than the story.
For a tribute to first responders, I'm Andre Rohrman reporting.
So if you know of a potential story for First Coast News, be sure to call 904-633-8808. You can also send pictures and videos to newstips@firstcoastnews.com. From all of us from Storytellers, have a great night.